Security Officer Diana Martinez had survived 3 wars, 2 assassination attempts, and a hull breach that nearly sucked her into the void of space. None of that prepared her for the small, fuzzy creature currently perched on top of the diplomatic filing cabinet, clutching her security badge between its needle-sharp teeth. The Kravik's cub chittered at her, its 6 eyes blinking in sequence like a wave of amusement. Its silver fur bristled with excitement, and its tail, nearly twice as long as its body, swished back and forth with clear satisfaction. Diana could see her reflection in the polished metal of her badge as it caught the light from the station's artificial sun panels. "Listen," Diana said slowly, crouching down to appear less threatening. She had learned this technique with her nephew back on Earth. "I really need that back. It's very important." The cub tilted its head, those multiple eyes studying her with an intelligence that was both unsettling and oddly endearing. It made a sound that reminded Diana of a cat's purr mixed with a rattlesnake's warning. The Kraviks were apex predators on their homeworld, a species that had clawed their way to the top of the food chain through cunning and ruthlessness. Their adults stood nearly 8 feet tall, with reflexes fast enough to snatch flying insects from the air and jaws powerful enough to crush titanium. This particular cub was the offspring of Ambassador Thrak Zul, currently in negotiations with the Galactic Council 3 floors above. The child had somehow escaped its caretaker and found its way into the security wing, where it had immediately fixated on the shiniest object in sight. Diana's badge wasn't just a piece of metal. It contained her biometric data, security clearances for 14 restricted zones, and access codes that changed every 6 hours. Without it, she couldn't do her job. More importantly, without it, she couldn't prove who she was, and station protocol required her to be escorted by another officer at all times. It was embarrassing enough that a creature the size of a house cat had outsmarted her. She didn't need the entire security department knowing about it. "Pretty thing, isn't it?" Diana tried again, keeping her voice soft and friendly. She had dealt with dozens of species during her 5 years on Unity Station, but the Kraviks were new to the Galactic Council. Their admission had been controversial. Many species feared them. Remembered the old days when the Kraviks had been conquerors rather than diplomats. The cub's ear flaps perked up at her words. It examined the badge more closely, turning it over with surprisingly dexterous paws. The creature was only a few months old by Kravik standards, barely out of what their species considered infancy. Yet already it showed the problem-solving skills that made the Kraviks formidable. Diana glanced at the door. She could call for backup, but that would mean explaining how she'd lost her badge to a child. The ribbing would last for months. She could try to grab it, but the Kraviks had reflexes she couldn't hope to match. Even the cubs were faster than most adult humans. That left negotiation, something humans had become surprisingly good at over the past century of interstellar contact. "You know what?" Diana said, sitting cross-legged on the floor. "I bet you're bored. Your parent is in those long, boring meetings and nobody is playing with you." The cub's tail stopped swishing. It watched her with what Diana hoped was curiosity rather than hunger. "I get it," she continued. "When I was little, my mom used to take me to her work sometimes. All the adults would talk and talk about things I didn't understand. I just wanted something interesting to do." The cub climbed down from the filing cabinet, moving with liquid grace that reminded Diana why the Kraviks were considered one of the most dangerous species in the known galaxy. It kept the badge firmly in its mouth but moved closer, staying just out of arm's reach. Diana pulled out her personal data pad, the one without any security features. She activated a simple game, something she'd downloaded to pass time during the endless night shifts. Colorful shapes bounced across the screen, responding to touch with satisfying sounds. The cub's eyes widened, all 6 of them fixed on the screen with laser focus. "Pretty, right?" Diana said. "Much more fun than a boring old badge. This one has games, videos, all sorts of interesting things." She tapped the screen, and a small digital creature appeared, dancing and making cheerful noises. The cub took another step closer. Its ears were fully forward now, and the aggressive bristling of its fur had smoothed out. "I could let you play with this," Diana offered, her heart pounding as the cub came within grabbing distance. "But only if you give me back my badge. Fair trade?" The cub made a considering sound, a sort of thrumming that vibrated from deep in its chest. Diana knew enough about Kravik's biology to recognize it as a sign of deep thought. The species might be predators, but they were also highly intelligent, capable of complex reasoning even at a young age. Slowly, carefully, the cub set the badge down on the floor between them. It didn't push it toward Diana, didn't fully relinquish control. It was testing her, seeing if she would honor the potential bargain. Diana set the datapad down the same way, creating a neutral zone between them. "On 3, she suggested. 1, 2, 3. She pushed the datapad forward as the cub pushed the badge forward. They met in the middle, and for a moment, both human and alien looked at each other, gauging whether the other would try to cheat. Then Diana picked up her badge, and the cub snatched the datapad, clutching it to its chest with obvious delight. It immediately began pawing at the screen, figuring out the touch interface with the kind of rapid learning that made the Kraviks such quick studies in technology and warfare. Diana clipped her badge back onto her uniform, feeling the familiar weight of it, the slight warmth from the active electronics. She couldn't help but smile as the cub became completely absorbed in the game, its previous interest in chaos and mischief apparently forgotten. "You're pretty smart for a little troublemaker," Diana said. The cub looked up at her, and if a predator species could smile, Diana would have sworn it did. Then the door to the security wing hissed open, and a massive Kravik's adult burst through, moving with terrifying speed. Ambassador Thrakzul was nearly 9 feet tall, with silver-gray fur marked with distinctive black stripes that denoted high rank among their people. The ambassador's mouth was open, showing rows of serrated teeth, and a low growl rumbled through the room like distant thunder. Diana instinctively stepped in front of the cub, a move that surprised her even as she did it. The ambassador stopped, 6 eyes blinking in evident surprise. "Security Officer Martinez," Thrakzul's translator rendered the Kravik's language into standard galactic common. "I apologize for my offspring's intrusion. The youngling has been causing trouble since we arrived at the station. I will punish the child appropriately." Diana held up a hand. "Actually, Ambassador, no punishment necessary. We were just negotiating." "Your kid is a natural diplomat." The ambassador's ear flaps twitched. A gesture Diana had learned indicated confusion. "Negotiating? The youngling stole your security credentials." "Borrowed," Diana corrected. "And we worked out a fair trade. No harm done." Thrakzul moved closer, looking down at the cub, who was still happily playing with the datapad. Something shifted in the ambassador's expression, a softening that Diana hadn't expected from a species known for their ferocity. "You negotiated with my child," the ambassador said slowly. "Most species would have called for armed assistance or attempted to take the badge by force." Diana shrugged. "Kids are kids, no matter what species. They just want attention and something interesting to do. Besides, force seemed like it would end badly for me." The ambassador made a sound that the translator couldn't quite render, but Diana thought it might have been laughter. "You are wiser than many, Officer Martinez. The Kraviks were warned that humans were unusual among the galactic species. Now I begin to understand why." "Unusual how?" Diana asked. "You treat a predator cub with the same patience and respect you would show an adult diplomat. You recognize intelligence and potential rather than seeing only danger. This is not common in the galaxy." The ambassador paused, then added, "The Galactic Council fears us. They remember when the Kraviks were conquerors. They believe we cannot change." but you saw my child not as a threat, but as a young being deserving of respect." Diana watched as the cub continued to play, completely at ease now. Everyone deserves a chance to be better than their history. Humans learned that the hard way. Ambassador Thraxul reached down and scooped up the cub, who chittered in protest at being separated from the datapad. "Keep your device, Officer Martinez. I will provide a replacement. Consider it payment for a lesson well learned and for showing kindness to my youngling." "No payment necessary," Diana said. "But maybe next time you're stuck in long meetings, bring your kid by. I can show them some more games, keep them out of trouble." The ambassador's 6 eyes studied her for a long moment. "You would do this? Volunteer to watch over a Kravix youngling?" "Sure," Diana said. "Like I said, kids are kids, and honestly, after dealing with my nephew's terrible twos back on Earth, your cub is pretty well behaved." As the ambassador left with the cub, Diana sat back at her security console and filed her report. Under Incident Type, she selected Diplomatic Encounter. Under Resolution, she simply wrote, "Negotiated peaceful settlement. No injuries or losses. Recommend future cultural exchange opportunities." Her supervisor would probably have questions. The other security officers would definitely laugh. But as Diana watched the ambassador and cub disappear down the corridor on the security feed, she thought about the expression on Thraxul's face, the surprise and something that might have been hope. Maybe that was what humans brought to the galaxy, she thought. Not superior weapons or faster ships or better technology. Just the simple understanding that sometimes the best way to handle a crisis was to sit down on the floor and treat everyone, even a predator cub with a stolen badge, with dignity and respect. Her communicator chimed. A message from Ambassador Thraxul appeared on her screen. "The Kravix delegation would be honored to invite Officer Diana Martinez to dinner tomorrow evening. The youngling specifically requests your presence. We will provide human-compatible food options." Diana smiled and typed her acceptance. It had taken an hour to negotiate with a child over a security badge, but something told her it might turn out to be the most important negotiation she'd ever conducted. Sometimes the smallest moments had the biggest impacts, and sometimes the best diplomacy happened not in meeting rooms with dignitaries, but on the floor of a security office with a mischievous cub and a willingness to understand.